Okay, what is up there YouTube? This is J-Man Time, and today I have a video on a rare Soviet-era assault rifle that many would consider to be the assault rifle of assault rifles. A rifle so overpowered it is basically 3 Kalashnikovs fused together in terms of its stopping power. A weapon so overpowered it was designed to compete with the Gatling guns used by the Soviet and American NATO-backed forces during the Cold War. And these assault rifle projects here were some of the goofiest yet most intimidating looking Kalashnikov-type weapon systems to be developed during the 1960s. And that is the Soviet Pribor 3B and its spin-off, the TKB 059 from 1962 and 1966. The Pribor 3B and the TKB 059 are 2 Soviet experimental 3-barreled bullpup assault rifles that were developed by a lesser-known Soviet arms designer/engineer by the name of German A. Korovov. These weapons projects were developed between 1962 and 1966 and were developed at the Soviet, now Russian, Tula Arms manufacturing plant. These weapon systems here were experimental bullpup assault rifles that were designed to have a similar rate of fire to the various Gatling gun systems in development for the Soviet armed forces, and they were also being developed in the NATO-backed countries supported by the US at the time, as Gatling guns were making a resurgence during the early to mid Cold War era of the 1940s through 1960s. Now, the first prototype, the Pribor 3B, was developed in 1962. It is a bullpup 3-barreled assault rifle system that is similar to the AK-47, except this is a 3-barreled weapon and it's bullpup. It is chambered for the standard Soviet 7.62 by 39mm cartridge. It is fed by one large 45-round detachable box magazine which had 3 rows. It is a standard or simple gas-operated system using pretty much a slightly modified version of the Kalashnikov system used in both the AKM and later AK-47 series of 1,400 to 1,800 rounds per minute. The weapon weighs 4.5 kilograms or 10 pounds or 9.9 to 10 pounds, and only a small number of prototypes were produced between 1962 and 1965. Now, this weapon system here again was meant to emulate the high rate of fire of the Gatling gun, but in a weapon system that is as light as an assault rifle, as this weapon system here only weighs 9.9 to 10 pounds, which is about how much an AK-47 would weigh fully loaded, or an M16 would weigh fully loaded with many of its attachments slapped onto it. So this weapon system here is literally an AK-47 with almost the same rate of fire as a Gatling gun. Most Gatling guns from the Cold War era had a rate of fire of between 1,500 rounds to about 3,500 rounds for the smaller Gatling guns, while many of the larger caliber Gatling guns had a higher rate of fire of upwards to 6,000 rounds per minute for many of the Gatling guns used in helicopter gunships or fixed-wing fighter and ground attack aircraft. So this weapon system here is trying to duplicate that rate of fire, but for a weapon system that is meant to be as light as an assault rifle or a battle rifle. Now, later on in the year of 1966, Korovov came up with a second prototype known as the TKB 059, which was a slightly modified version of the Pribor B3, and it was also tested by the Soviet armed forces in the same year of 1966. Ultimately, neither weapon was taken into service as the Soviets felt that their AKM and AK-47 series was good enough, and on top of that, a few years later, in the early 1970s, they would have the AK-74 series of assault rifles also. Now, in terms of a fully automatic or squad automatic weapon, they also had weapons like the PKM and the RPD series of light machine guns. They were already in production, or going to be in production, at this time period anyway. So when it came to firepower, they felt that they already had enough with their standard issued rifles and light machine guns. So neither the Pribor B3 nor did TKB 059 were ever taken seriously, but at the time they were considered some of the most overpowered experimental assault rifles developed in the Soviet Union. Now, this wasn't the only one. There were tons of other experimental assault rifles developed in the Soviet Union or the USSR. They were also meant to increase the rate of fire. But the Pribor 3B and the TKB 059 by German A. Korobov were some of the coolest looking ones and the most intimidating assault rifles. Many gun enthusiasts online today consider these to be the Soviet equivalent of the Terminator weapons seen in many of the Terminator movies. This is basically the Soviet Terminator assault rifle, because if you get shot with one of these, you ain't getting back up. 1,800 rounds per minute, you ain't escaping that, nor are you dodging anything coming from this weapon system. So what do you all think of this? The Pribor 3B and the TKB 059 from 1962 and 1966? Please tell me in the comment section below. And until next time, this was J-Man Time signing off.